Good morning, everyone. It is Coach Maggie with another 5 Minute Monday Mindset, and I'm glad that you are here. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. And today's going to be a little bit different. We're still talking very much about mindset, but I'm going to share, and it's actually in the description. There is a link to my church service yesterday. And as I was sitting there, I thought, oh my goodness, this is what I talk about. And so many things, and so much of it spoke to me. And it was just really talking about anxiety and how we feel it, and depression. And while I generally don't feel like I struggle with either of those, we all, over the past really 3 years, have gone through some level of trauma just surviving the pandemic and all of the different elements, and some people much more so than others. And so our pastor invited a therapist to come, and it's a wonderful discussion where they're talking about, how it affected people differently and how it's continuing to affect us. And one thing really, well, two things really jumped out at me. First of all, again, I'm that person that would say, oh, I don't struggle with anxiety, depression. I don't have any trauma. And yet, as she put slides up on the screen, there were things on there that I thought, I never thought of that as trauma. We're generally thinking, these big life changing moments that happen maybe in childhood or our teen years or whatever, a divorce, a death. We're thinking of major things. And while those are absolutely trauma or traumatic, there are other smaller traumas that we do go through. So please, I put the link to the recording, and you can actually you can listen to the whole service by all means, but I put the timestamp so that you can go right there and listen. But the other thing that really jumped off, the screen at me in their discussion is she mentioned how quick we are to believe a lie. And I've shared this on a 5 Minute Monday Mindset before. I said that we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. She said around 70, and of course it's going to vary. But many, if not most of those, are things we don't even think about. For example, I will pick up and set this down. I'm not thinking about it. I'm going to reach for something. I'm not thinking about it. So a lot of our thoughts are just things we just naturally do. But when we get ready to do something, I want to use my calculator or, do other things. I have to consciously be thinking. But she said something very, very interesting. She said which I knew this, most of our thoughts are negative thoughts. They just are. But we can train ourselves, and I totally believe that we can train ourselves to begin to turn that around. But one of the things she said, in every lie, there's a tiny speck of truth. But guess what we focus in on? That the fact that it's not true. That let me rephrase it. We focus on the fact that let me rephrase the whole thing. In every lie, there is a tiny bit of truth. Okay? We should be focusing on the truth. But instead, we focus on the lie. And so let's think about it. For example, let's say that you apply for a job, or at work, you're vying for a position, or you're getting ready to do something else, and you don't get it. There's a vote, and you don't get it. Our immediate thought is often, nobody likes me, I'm a loser, all of those negative things. We jump on those things, and they're lies. They're all lies. I was unqualified. I'm not very smart. I should never have even, put myself out there. We believe those things. So what would the truth be? The truth is that maybe that person was slightly more qualified. It's not saying anything about you. It's just that that other person maybe had just a little bit more. The other truth that is very likely is that maybe the other person had an in. That happens a lot with interviews and jobs. It had nothing to do with you. I remember my son when he was just almost, well, actually, I think he'd graduated from college. And her friends said, "Oh, your son should apply for this job." And we were like, "Oh, that would be an amazing job. And they pay really well." And so he went to the interview and he didn't get it. And he was really discouraged. And our friend who actually worked there said, "It wasn't your son. That job had already been promised to somebody, but they had to go through the technicalities of putting it out there and getting applicants. But in my son's mind, he wasn't as qualified, wasn't as smart, all of those things." So a lot of times we will believe a lie when there really is nothing to hold that up. There's just that tiny, tiny little bit of truth. And even then, it still isn't necessarily anything against you at all. But yet we're quick to assume that, oh, I'm bad. I'm not very smart. I'm not very good. Others are better. The world is just against me. So anyway, I'm not doing any justice to the discussion. So please take just a bit of time. We had done a sermon series where people in our church had an opportunity to write down things that were really heavy on their heart. And a cross had been put in one corner of the church sanctuary. And so there were different stations, and at each there were different things. And at the cross, there were little slips of paper and a pencil, lots of pencils. And so things that were weighing heavy on you, you were to write down that thing. And then there were little tacks, and then you were to basically nail it to the cross. In other words, you were giving this to Jesus. He died on the cross for us. We don't have to carry these things. And so it was neat because the pastor was not sure how this whole exercise was going to go. Something very different and unique. We'd never done anything like it. Would people respond? Would people think, "Wow, this is weird"? But a few people got up, and then others, and pretty soon everybody got up. And we walked around, and later the pastor collected all those little slips of paper, and he glanced at them, and no one put names, so he wasn't like, peering in on people's secrets. But he saw overwhelmingly 3 themes, and so this was the 3rd Sunday. The first one dealt with lust, and then unforgiveness, or maybe it was the other way around. But anyway, the top 3, and that was the name of the series, the top 3 were lust in some form, unforgiveness, and then this one, just anxiety, depression, just feeling heavy. And so he didn't feel he could adequately really deal with this. So he brought a professional therapist in, and it was a wonderful, very insightful, without being over your head discussion. And she did a beautiful, beautiful job. So I just want to encourage you to take just a few minutes to listen. Maybe you have a drive, you're going to do some housework. You just want to relax, go for a walk and listen. But it was amazing. So much. For the person like myself that thinks, well, I don't have, this will be interesting, but it won't really, be anything that I felt like I could walk away with. But there was so much goodness about how we see ourselves, how we compare ourselves to others. And this is a message we all need. So I just want to encourage you to listen, and then let me know what you think, and maybe some takeaways that you got from her message. But again, I just want to encourage you. Just yesterday, here we had just had that amazing service, and I had an opportunity to put this into place because I heard a comment. Someone made a comment, and I took it in the wrong way. And again, it was like a flashback to that conversation that she had with my pastor of how we're so often ready to take a simple comment and take it personally and let it bruise us when it wasn't meant to be anything other than just a comment. And so I just want to encourage you. So enough of me talking. So go out, have an amazing day, and as always, God bless.